Hi, Tucker and Anthony here with Land Title, bringing you Boulder County market update for June. Let's go ahead and dive in. And what are we seeing, Anthony?
Well, so one of the biggest things we're seeing is we're finally starting to feel that rise in inventory. Now, this is largely due to interest rates, as you guys know, but it's really bringing down some of those buyers. So we saw it about a month early. The pendings have started to trend down, right? Usually the peak of our pendings is in that June timeframe. That really happened about April. And so with that kind of trend, we're really starting to see that rise in inventory, right? This is the largest listing season of the year for homes listing on the market. That coupled with a slow in demand is going to see a pretty steep rise in inventory. And the best place to see this is really back at that 2018 levels. Those 2018 levels gave us a good indicator of kind of what to expect, because back then we were in the same sort of position where we saw a rise in inventory through the later part of the year. It's not quite going to be the same, but obviously it's the best thing we've got that we can look at in recent history.
So let's go ahead and show that real quick. Where is the 2018 area on the graph?
So right here is about the 2018 direction, where we're talking about a pretty steep incline. And you can see right here, we're really starting to feel that in the last month or so. The pendings have slowed. Sales obviously trend after that, so we'll see that in next month data, but I would expect to see this rise in inventory pretty quickly. The big difference being that we're still really low in inventory, right? This is a total seller's market, but we're finally starting to see some of that change. And I think one of the things we really want to look at here would be this active inventory slide.
Yeah, and on our active listings right now, this is for detached single families, of course. We saw a big month-over-month increase, and this is really where we're feeling it. Is condos are still attractive, they're still moving a little bit harder because of those price points, but right now in the detached single families, that's where we're really starting to see the increase in actives. Buyers have more options, and we're in double digits month over month right now. And that's a really big piece, is we actually have things to show. So what that means for you as a lender, buyers are still moving. We still have a good market in front of us. We're just trending back to a little bit more normalcy after the last 2 years, which were just absolutely wild.
I think the big part to take away here is the submarkets is really important to pay attention to, right? Erie had a 40% increase month over month in inventory. They're up to 80 units. Longmont finally is starting to catch up in inventory, 147 units. Still not as much as Boulder, even though they're really similar market sizes. So just kind of keep that in mind. We're finally starting to see all of the markets trend in the same direction, which is a really good sign for this. Now, I think we should probably go over to look at our month supply of inventory, because really to put this in perspective, let's talk about balance, right? Balance is at 4 months or so, 4 to 6 months is kind of what we talk about as a balanced market. We're not generally in a balanced market in Colorado, but we have been in recent history, right? So we kind of need to jog our memory.
So this was really kind of throw 2020, 2021 out the window. Those are not normal. Those were anomalies. We probably will never see that again, or hopefully we won't because of the pandemic. And if we look back to 2019, 2017, and 2018, all right in there, you can see where those active inventories are hitting almost that 4-month mark. Then look at where we're at today. We're still just under 2 months of inventory. So this is still a very tight market historically. And that's the big thing to remind your clients when you're looking at this. This is still a tough market. It's still competitive, but the rising inventory gives more opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really pointed out in some of those submarkets. Like Longmont, what I was saying, is finally starting to catch up. We're talking 1.3 months, right? We're talking basically 5 weeks of inventory there. Superior at 2.4 months, now that's a whole different story, right? They feel really, really different. You're probably feeling that working with those buyers. So I think the next thing that we wanted to look at was just talking about the days in MLS. We're talking about rising inventory, but homes are still going under contract so fast. The right homes are going under contract if they're priced correctly, right? So we're talking about 11 and a half days in the MLS that's active to under contract. So it's still really important to be there for those buyers as they're going under contract, and really to be on the game, because there are still bidding wars taking place in some parts of the market. There may not be in others. There might be inventory in some places. There might not be in others, right? We're still feeling that transition.
So while your buyers are out there shopping, it's still important for you to be acting fast, be Johnny on the spot, and help them get under contract, because it's still competitive for the right house. Now, certain homes are taking a little bit longer depending on how they're priced, but for you as a lender, really make sure you're still there to help support your clients with those pre-approval letters. You're there on the weekends to make those phone calls to agents, all that extra stuff, because right now has been the time that the cream's going to rise here, right? It's going to get harder. It's going to get tougher. The cream's going to rise. Be the cream.
A big part about the market that we're seeing as far as by price point, right? These are price point slides. Everything over $1 million is doing really well still, right? It seems like this is really affecting those borrowers a lot less. They probably have more to put down. Maybe they have a little bit more bandwidth in their income to absorb some of that monthly cost. But the market below $1 million is really starting to feel right? I mean, we're talking 10+% down. If you look at like 300,000, granted, the sales are down by like 60%, but a lot of that's due to price appreciation really kind of disintegrated that part of the market.
As we're seeing more houses sit on the market, it's just depending on where the pricing is. So some of these price bands, homes are hoping to be in that range, and they may not be there anymore because of where the market's going.
Right. You thought you were over 800, now we really need to price it at 799, right? So when you're working with your buyers, I think it's really important to make sure that they're not afraid to make an offer, right? I mean, we haven't felt that in a while where it's like, I really like this house. I don't think it's worth 850. We don't even qualify for 850 anymore. Maybe we'll put in the offer at 800 or 825, right? And we can really start to work that negotiation, right?
We're actually back to negotiating.
I know.
It's not tell me what you want and can I do it or not? We're back to negotiating. So you can really help your folks and help them understand. Also, a rate buy down from the seller credit is way more valuable than a $10,000 credit. $10,000 off the sales price.
At least
doesn't help as much.
For sure.
Yeah, especially on the lower price points. But even even getting closer to the shovels where you're buying down points, it's really going to make a lot more difference of a 10K credit to points versus 10K off the top. And that's where you can really help coach your agents in developing that and making your buyers' dollars go farther, right? Because we want to get them the best houses with the best monthly payments. How do we do that? You guys.
Yeah, here's the other part of this. So we have month supply of inventory ratcheting up like we talked about. Now it happens at the higher price points faster because you just have less qualified buyers. That's okay. A few months ago, 3+ million was sitting around 2.5 months of inventory. Here we are today at close to 7. It's actually a buyer's market at 3+ million. There's a lot of sales though, right? We just saw 18 sales take place, but 60 something homes on the market. So with that rising inventory, with people still buying up, it's really, really aggressive situation.
And the market's still moving fast. You can still look, we're only at 36.5 days for 3+ million. That's still really, really fast, right?
That does not feel like a recessionary market in any way, shape, or form.
Not at all.
This feels like buyers are really aggressive if they have to move, if they can handle the payment, if they can, if. But when we find those qualified buyers, they're super motivated. I mean, this is a really good sign. I actually pulled the median. It's not in the presentation, but we've had to take a look at it. Those median days on market are like 6 or 5 days, depending on detached or attached. Yep. It's incredible how fast they're moving. Are they all going under contract? No. Some sellers are having unrealistic expectations because they want what their neighbor got. Well, it's not quite that market right now. So we're starting to see that really rise on inventory. But those buyers, man, they are out. And they are
serious buyers are still in the market. Keep in touch. Keep working them.
Yep.
And okay, let's go to our Soledad because this is really important now.
Here's some of the most important stuff that we wanted to point out today. So we keep looking at this, and you can see right here, the year-to-date change is down almost 17%. So we have a lot less sales, largely due to the beginning of the year with inventory constraints. At this point in time, it's largely due to buyers leaving the marketplace, not being able to afford those monthly payments.
Unfortunately, the selling season came too late in the year for us. So that's where, when you're talking with folks, you can use this data and say, well, all the homes came on the market after rates started going up, which is really unfortunate. Otherwise, this market would have had a lot longer legs in it. But that's where we are. And when we're down 16%, it's still not a bad year. We just have to look back historically on where we're at. If we look back to the 2017-18, it's still very comparable. 2019, it started picking up and then it started tapering down. But that's a really important piece to look at here is remind your folks of the history here. The last 2 years were anomalies. The history is showing this is still a good year for real estate. We're down 16% after last year, but last year was one of the best years of all time.
And we're really nowhere near those 17 or 18 levels. So we could still actually see less sales take place because that turnover rate is going to be much more normalized than it was, right? We were about 2% in our turnover rate back in the day, 17, 18, way before that, right? Boulder is really just slow to turn over. People don't really want to leave. You have a lot of demand coming in, but then you got into those 2020, 2021 years and people made decisions for their lifestyle at that point, right? And you had a lot of people increase divorces, everything else. So that turnover went to like that 4 or 5% range.
So
we're going to come back down to reality pretty soon here. So I think that that's really important to understand that part of it. Now, the other part that we wanted to talk about was average sales price, right?
This is huge. Our average sales price is decreasing comparatively to last year, but we're still moving. We're still moving well at 15, almost 16%. So our TTM stands for our trailing 12 months. So it's an average over the last 12 months comparatively to the previous. And so our trailing 12 months, by it going up still 15%, that's still a really hot market, but it's slowing down from where we have been. And that's just showing that prices are coming back in line a little bit, which is not a bad thing, right? Especially as rates go up, market's balancing out a little bit. That's a good sign for a lot of folks. Now, if you look over here in our cities, still a ton, absolutely a ton of really high numbers that we have not seen in ages. So it's important to remember that.
I think the key takeaway here is, what are we expecting for the future? We're expecting this to slow down, right? Now, how is it slowing? We've seen over the last few months, about 5% or so, we've seen it slow. We're going to probably see it slow by another 5 or so percent, maybe into the fall. So I think it's a really important thing to remember that people didn't miss the boat, right? When you're working with those buyers, they didn't miss market appreciation. They didn't get in too late, right? We're not going negative. We're basically going to slow down, right? And slowing down to our Colorado average at 5.5 or 6% a year over the course of our 60, 70 years of data we can look at. That's okay. It's amazing, right? It's way more than most people.
Yeah. And even though the loan costs more now, remember, you know this, tell them to refinance in a few years. When rates drop again, get that secondary business again of being there and staying in touch with your sphere. Don't forget who you're doing loans for right now. Keep your spreadsheets, keep your CRMs, stay in touch.
Exactly. So sold units, you can see it here. It's much more visualized this way. If you need to share this data with somebody, I would encourage you to use this slide. We've already talked about it though. Next, this is the last thing that we really wanted to talk about. Is that percentage sold price to list price. 103% is still our percentage sold price to list price. This is that sold data though, right? So when we're looking at under contracts, we're looking at what's happening now. This is delayed data, right? So this is going to continue to fall.
These are the contracts of May.
Right? These are like April, May contracts. We're sliding down and we're going to continue to see this fall. So when you're trying to articulate this to people, what should they expect? Are there going to be bidding wars? Yeah, there absolutely still are bidding wars taking place. It's moving on a median of 6 days. So you got to be out, you got to be aggressive, it's got to be quick. But it's also slowing pretty rapidly, month over month, about 2 to 3% in any given price range. Yeah, I mean,
that's it, man. You hit the nail on the head. Now, when we looked at attached, once again, that's coming down as well. It's down to just about a 102. In our attached market, we're still seeing a lot of traction, especially in the lower side of the market, because that's where people are being forced down into those, your price range change when your monthly payment goes up 20, 30% based on interest rates. Nothing you can do about it, nothing we can do about it. It's the market. But make sure you're still remembering, hey, what are my FHAs? What am I doing on what non-warrantable condos, warrantable condos? What am I doing with those condo questionnaires? Because the market's still moving fast, but we're starting to see those 3-4 week contracts. So you can actually start writing a little bit, get a little bit more work done ahead of time when you're working with attached buyers.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget, we're Anthony and Tucker with Land Title. We're always here if you have any other questions or need any other market information. Catch you next time.